Imagine a small country trying to recreate itself with
Singapore and China.
its rules, its order, its success on foreign soil, deep inside one of the world's largest nations. Welcome to what was once hailed as Singapore's most daring foreign experiment. This is the Suzhou Industrial Park, SIP, a bold experiment that sought to transplant Singapore's development model into the heart of China. But behind the gleaming skyscrapers and impressive statistics lies a more nuanced story, a tale of ambitious vision and painful lessons that would reshape Singapore's approach to international development forever. To understand this story, we need to go back to the early 1990s. China was opening up to the world after decades of isolation, and Singapore was riding high as Asia's economic miracle. In 1992, Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping embarked on his landmark Southern Tour, a series of informal visits and speeches across southern China. Although he officially retired from his leadership positions, Deng remained highly influential within the Chinese Communist Party. His tour was a turning point, as he used it to reignite momentum for economic reforms and opening up policies, reinforcing China's commitment to market-oriented development despite internal resistance. That same year, Singapore's founding father Lee Kuan Yew visited China and proposed something ambitious. What if Singapore could help build an industrial park that would transfer its development expertise to China? The location was strategic. Suzhou, just 80 kilometers west of Shanghai in China's prosperous Jiangsu province. The idea was revolutionary. Create a Singapore-style township with clean governance, efficient infrastructure, and a pro-business environment right in the heart of China. Finally, in 1994, the deal was sealed with tremendous fanfare. China's Vice Premier Li Lanqing and Singapore's then Deputy Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong signed the agreement. This wasn't just another industrial zone, it was positioned as a major knowledge transfer project, a way for China to learn Singapore's development model. Singapore would lead a consortium holding 65% of the project, while Chinese stakeholders would hold 35%. This marked the first time China allowed foreign majority ownership in such a large development project. The total investment, a staggering $20 billion, is planned over 20 years. What made this project unique was its political significance. This wasn't just business, it was government to government, with the highest levels of leadership involved. Lee Kuan Yew saw it as Singapore's chance to make a lasting mark on China's development, while Chinese leaders saw it as a way to fast-track their modernization. Construction began immediately. Singapore dispatched hundreds of officials and experts to transfer knowledge in urban planning, environmental management, and public administration. By 1996, the first factories were up and running. Global companies like Philips, Samsung, and Siemens established operations, attracted by the promise of Singapore-style efficiency with Chinese cost advantages. The infrastructure was impressive by the 1990s Chinese standards. Wide roads, reliable utilities, and one-stop administrative services were all designed to create a haven for international investors hesitant about China's business environment. Initial projections were optimistic. Singapore is expecting to break even within 5 to 7 years, and then enjoy decades of profitable returns. The project was supposed to be a win-win. China would gain valuable know-how, and Singapore would secure a profitable foothold in the world's fastest-growing major economy. By 1997, just 3 years in, trouble was brewing. The project was hemorrhaging money, and investment was flowing much slower than anticipated. A major problem emerged just 8 kilometers away. A silent rival was rising. The Suzhou New District, or SND, a competing industrial park fully controlled by local Chinese authorities, began aggressively undercutting SIP on land prices and incentives. This created a bizarre situation where local Chinese officials were effectively competing against their own central government's flagship project. Companies would visit SIP, learn about its advantages, and then head to SND, where they could get similar benefits at lower costs. By 1999, the Suzhou Industrial Park had attracted around $3.2 billion in investments from 48 companies during its first 3 years. Yet the exact amount invested by the Singaporean government remains a closely guarded secret till today, with no official figures ever publicly disclosed. What is clear, however, is that Singapore faced mounting financial losses. Frustration grew among Singaporean officials who believed they were undermined by unfair competition, particularly from the nearby Suzhou New District, and by the Chinese central authorities' reluctance to intervene. A New York Times article reported that the Singaporean chief executive of the project said that Singapore had been losing an average of $23.5 million annually since 1994, with total losses projected to reach $90 million by the end of 2000. Beyond the financial losses, Singapore's reputation was also at stake. The Suzhou Industrial Park project had been heavily promoted as a showcase of Singapore's development expertise, making its struggles increasingly visible and damaging to its international standing. Faced with this situation and the growing financial burden, Singapore made a pivotal decision to reduce its stake from 65% to 35%, effectively ceding control to its Chinese partners in what was largely perceived as a strategic withdrawal, acknowledging the substantial losses incurred. Even Lee Kuan Yew acknowledged the harsh reality. He remarked that the local Suzhou authorities had been using us to get investors in, and when investors came in, they said, "You come to my park, it's cheaper." Compounding these issues, instances of corruption further marred the project's reputation. Notably, Bai Guiji, a former CEO of the SIP, was investigated for graft, highlighting governance challenges within the project. What many don't realize is that Singapore essentially trained its own competition. They transferred valuable knowledge about industrial park development and management, which China then replicated in dozens of other zones that now compete directly with Singapore for investment. By 2005, many Singaporean officials who had facilitated the knowledge transfer had been phased out, and the SIP model was later replicated across numerous industrial zones throughout China, fueling a wave of competition that gradually eroded the investment advantages Singapore initially enjoyed. Fast forward to today, the SIP certainly looks successful from a Chinese perspective. It covers 278 square kilometers, hosts over 5,000 foreign enterprises, and over 25 Fortune 500 companies have established operations here. The numbers are impressive. By 2024, SIP's GDP reached approximately 400 billion yuan, about 74 billion Singapore dollars, accounting for nearly 20% of Suzhou's total economy, while occupying just 3.4% of its land area. It's evolved beyond manufacturing to become a hub for research, artificial intelligence, and high-tech services. The China-Singapore Suzhou Industrial Park Development Group company is now listed on the Shanghai Stock Exchange. From China's perspective, SIP achieved exactly what it was designed to do. It transferred Singapore's knowledge and systems, which were then adapted and improved for Chinese conditions. However, perspectives on the Suzhou Industrial Park vary. While some see it as a strategic setback for Singapore, others argue that it brought long-term benefits, despite the financial returns falling short of expectations. Singapore's experience with the Suzhou Industrial Park provided valuable lessons that significantly influenced its approach to subsequent international development projects, such as the Sino-Singapore-Tianjin Eco-City, for example, which is a project between Singapore and China aimed at creating a sustainable, environmentally friendly, and smart city. Singapore this time adopted a model where it took a 50% stake as a co-equal partner, with both parties sharing equal ownership and control over the project's development and operations. Singapore has since focused on targeted collaborations in areas where its expertise is distinctive and less easily replicated, such as water management, airport development, and smart city technologies. This strategic shift aims to mitigate risks associated with large-scale knowledge transfer projects. In conclusion, the SIP project served as a pivotal learning experience for Singapore, highlighting the complexities of international collaborations and the need for strategic foresight. While it facilitated China's industrial advancement, it also prompted Singapore to refine its international strategies, emphasizing balanced partnerships and the protection of its competitive advantages in future endeavors. What do you think? Was the Suzhou Industrial Park a success or a failure for Singapore? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this video informative, please subscribe for more stories. Thank you for watching.